Every marriage has a few unwritten rules. Some couples never go to bed angry. Some promise never to keep secrets. My wife and I only had one strange rule: never open the trunk of her old silver sedan. My name is Adam. My wife Rachel had owned that car long before we met. Even after we could easily afford a newer one, she refused to sell it. Whenever I suggested replacing it, she'd smile and say, "One day, I'll tell you why." Then she'd change the subject. At first, I thought it was sentimental. Maybe it reminded her of college. Maybe it had belonged to a family member. After years together, I stopped asking. Until one evening changed everything. We had spent the afternoon visiting friends in a nearby town. On the drive home, heavy rain covered the windshield. Rachel was unusually quiet. She barely touched the radio. She kept glancing into the rearview mirror as if she expected someone to be behind us. "You okay?" I asked. She forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." 10 minutes later, she suddenly turned off the highway onto an empty country road. I looked around. This isn't the way home. I know. She drove another mile before stopping beside an abandoned picnic area. The engine fell silent. Only the rain filled the air. I looked at her. "Rachel, what's going on?" She sat there with both hands gripping the steering wheel. Then she whispered, "I can't keep hiding this from you anymore." My heart started racing. She stepped out of the car without another word. I followed her into the rain. She walked slowly to the back of the sedan. For a long moment, she simply stared at the trunk. Then she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small key I'd never seen before. Her hands were trembling. She unlocked the trunk but didn't lift it. Instead, she turned toward me. Tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry." "For what?" She shook her head. "I should have told you years ago." The rain continued falling around us. Finally, she raised the trunk lid. She looked at me with a broken smile and quietly said, "I never wanted you to see this." I slowly stepped closer. Then I looked inside. And the first thing I saw made me completely forget about the rain. I slowly walked toward the open trunk. My mind had already imagined the worst. Another man's belongings, hidden cash, a second phone, divorce papers. Instead, there were dozens of carefully sealed cardboard boxes. Every single one had a handwritten date. The oldest was nearly 15 years old. Rachel picked up the smallest box and placed it in my hands. "Open it." Inside were tiny baby shoes, a knitted blue blanket, a hospital bracelet, and a folded greeting card that simply read, "Welcome home, little one." I looked up confused. Rachel couldn't hold back her tears anymore. "Before I met you, I was engaged." I stayed silent. 6 months before our wedding, we were in a car accident. Her voice trembled. Our son was only a few weeks old. Neither of them survived. The world around me seemed to stop. I didn't know. I know. I never told anyone. I packed everything that reminded me of them into these boxes. I thought if I locked them away, the pain would stay locked away too. She looked into the trunk. But grief doesn't work like that. It waits. For years, every time I opened this trunk, I promised myself I'd tell you. But I was terrified. Terrified of what? That you'd think there was no room left in my heart for us. I immediately shook my head. "Rachel, love doesn't erase love." She covered her face with both hands. "I've spent 8 years feeling guilty every time I laughed, every anniversary, every birthday, every happy memory with you. I felt like I was betraying them." I wrapped my arms around her. "You weren't betraying anyone. You were surviving." For several minutes, neither of us spoke. The rain slowly became lighter. Together we looked through the remaining boxes. There were photographs, birthday cards never given, a tiny stuffed elephant, even a notebook filled with letters Rachel had written to her son every year on his birthday. She smiled sadly. "I never stopped talking to him." I gently closed the notebook. "And you never had to stop." Rachel looked at me through tears. "I was afraid you'd ask me to throw all of this away." I looked at the boxes again, then back at her. "No, this is part of your life. And now it's part of ours." A week later, we returned to that quiet country road, not to hide the boxes again, but to bring them home. We turned our spare bedroom into a small memory room. Nothing elaborate, just a peaceful place where Rachel could remember without hiding. Months later, she walked past that room, smiled, and left the door open. For the first time, she didn't need a locked trunk to protect her memories. One evening, she quietly said, "I thought if you knew my whole story, you might love me less." I squeezed her hand. The truth didn't make me love you less. It helped me understand you more. Sometimes the heaviest thing a person carries isn't inside a suitcase or a closet or the trunk of an old car. It's the fear that if someone sees every chapter of your life, they'll stop choosing you. But real love isn't built on perfect stories. It's built on having the courage to share the painful ones too.